Hello and welcome to your video for tonalizations for book 2. A question I get a lot is, what is a tonalization? And I love your questions. I want to be here to help answer them. There's a book that you can purchase if you would like called Tonalizations by Suzuki. And I've actually copied this and put it in a handbook in years past. I think there's part of it still in the handbook just because it's so interesting to see how every little part of our bow hold and where we put our bow, how it contributes to our tone production, our sound production. I actually wanted to read a little bit from this Quinn Etudes book. It's the last page. If you have this book, you can get it and follow along. It's also in Japanese for your convenience. And I love how he says, how do we see tone? A method for producing good tone. These directions are for pupils who press the strings down too strongly with the bow and produce a harsh tone. We've all done that. We've all have to do that so we can see the limitations of our bow. With the help of seeing tone, they should be able to master the use of the bow and to understand that they should stop pressing the string down so strongly. I can report from my experience that my pupils, guided by this method for 1 or 2 months, are soon able to produce good tone. So he says, first play open D, and then play 2 on the G in second and third position. So what you're doing is playing a D here on the G string. You can use 4 on the G, either one, or 2. And you're trying to see how far the D string can vibrate across. Because when the string is vibrating the widest, you are getting the perfect, the most right D that that string has, because it's making the D string ring by itself. So I wish you could see my strings, but at least you can see in this picture how the G string is not moving and the D string is vibrating very, very wide. I can kind of come up close. See the D string here vibrating? It looks a little thick. So practice that on your instrument. It's just so good. You can practice it when you play Twinkle Little Star and just trying to see how far can it vibrate. So I'm going to do some reading from these books. Suzuki, one of the hallmarks of the method is just his tone and the sound that he produced from the students in Matsumoto, Japan. And you know some of his quotes already: beautiful tone, beautiful heart. Tone has a living soul. So let's start off in page 6 of the Tonalizations book. So what you're going to do is just pluck with your finger the D string, and then you're going to try to play and get that same width. G. You could try to do A and E even. And so you don't want to pluck too quiet or too loud. It's too much. It's not funny to do that. In your lessons, it can pull your strings out of tune, and it could even pop your string off if you pluck too crazy. Let's go on here. Okay. Whoops, my paper is falling. Okay, so on page 19, I like how he has this page on resonance. And he says this is increasing the sensitivity of the ear. And so, if I put my first finger on the G, that's not going to ring as much as this. Right now my A string is actually vibrating. It's hard to see on the video. Awesome. So we tune our violin to what's called A440, and that's a vibration frequency. And so when I put my finger on the G, this is A220. You know, maybe this is A218. And then I want to find right on A220. You want to find your exact resonance point. Okay, so that's also really good to do with the quint etudes. Okay, so there's a couple of other things. Okay, so this, I'm kind of jumping around. This is on page 4, and it says lessons from vocal instruction. It's a note from Suzuki just on like why we should do tonalizations and how he basically came up with this name and how he came to that. In teaching violin, generally, one does not give pupils, those are students, specific exercises for beautiful tone similar to the daily vocalization exercises given to singers. I do not understand why. I maintain that the method of vocal instruction suggests a guide for violin instruction. It might be said that those who play difficult violin concertos without beautiful tone are like those who sing difficult music without emphasis on beauty of tone. There is a common belief that good tone will be acquired naturally in due course and that teaching should stress techniques of violin playing. I believe it is necessary to give pupils special instruction in how to produce good tone. I believe that tone exercises must be added to the study of the violin. I know that the most excellent teachers always devote time to the tone study in their teaching. The establishment of such a system of tone production to guide the beginner, similar to the systems used in voice production, is the object of my book, Tonalization, Shinichi Suzuki. And then he gives this picture right after. I used to include this in your handbook. It might be in there. I'm not sure. And it says, does your bow move in a straight line indicated as the photo above? So right over the F-holes. Excuse me. Practice moving your bow in a straight line parallel to the bridge. The fundamental position of bowing is above the F-holes as indicated in the picture. So we've done this in Pre-Twinkle and some in Book 1 with Out the Door the Birdie Goes. So we get a straight bow from understanding the shapes of our arm. So we have our triangle, square, and this is like, I'll stand up a little polygon, diamond type of arm. We also get a straight bow by strengthening our bow hand. So lots of thumb squeezes, bow circles, elevators, pinky taps. All of your exercises are going to strengthen your bow hand and arm. And we also get a good tone by understanding the physics of our violin. So if you take your finger, and you're not really supposed to touch right here normally, but we'll do it right now. And if you touch the string right in front of the bridge, it's really tight. So if I used a really fast bow on the really tight portion of the string, you get a really harsh sound. If I used a really slow bow on the really tight portion of the string, I can get a decent sound. So let's go to the opposite end. I have a very loose string here. The tension is very light, not very tense at all, and if you keep going, the tension decreases. So anyways, I'm going to use a really slow, heavy bow here at this very loose part. Doesn't really work. Now I'm going to use a fast bow with lots of speed. It works. So we have to find out when we're in the middle of those two. I call this sounding point 3. So we have 1, 2, 3, the middle. 4, 5. We need about 50% weight, you know, your stick goes in, and 50% speed. So maybe I'm going like 45 miles an hour, maybe 40. And I'm thinking of the shapes of my arm. I did my bow exercises. Those will all help you make a beautiful tone. Let's go to, yes. I love this example of the ship. I feel like just even thinking this way changes the sound already. So this is on page 28. Various pressures of the bow. Ship on the water is the bow on the string. So here's the water, here's the ship, and we're just sailing along. And this is actually from Mr. Shinji Nishizaki. Suzuki is quoting him. Compare a ship on the water with the bow on the string. If the ship is fully loaded, both bow and stern will sink equally into the water. If one overturns the stern, the balance is lost and it floats up in the water, like this. And it shows you that in the picture here, the bottom one. See how it's flipping in the water? The buoyancy of a ship can be compared to the elasticity of the hair of a violin bow. Hold the bow on the string the way a ship floats on the water. Don't sink the ship. When one lets the boat float evenly on the string, one can make a beautiful tone. He says, I approve of Mr. Nishizaki's comparison of the bow to a ship on the water. And then you can just practice. Your bouncing bow stroke he then goes into. So you can just play A. Okay, we can go on all day trying to even that out. But so you're going to use your bouncing ball arm, and it's like you start to bounce the balls. Slow, slow, faster, faster. Whew, my spiccato needs lots of work. Alright, and then I think the last thing that we have, oh yes, the end of the book. Alright, so these are the pictures that I included in the handbooks in the past. This is just starting on my book on page 44. It's changed in the handbook, but it's normally in the section called Tonalizations. So sometimes you might see that you or your child singers want to just naturally feel very stiff, and they don't want to move. So he says a stiff hand is caused by all 5 fingers holding the bow, especially the middle finger or the forefinger. I myself keep my middle finger idle. So you should practice perpetual motion and pick up your fingers while you do it. and it'll start helping to balance out your stiffness. So you want to play the rest of the song like that, and then, wait, you want to pick up your forefinger, ring finger, and little finger. So you want to pick up all three of these. And play the whole piece like that. Thumb position on the bow. So this just talks about making sure that it is angled into the bow and it's not straight on like that, but it's at a little tiny angle into the bow. Let's see. I like to go to this one about the pinky finger. Stiffness of the little finger destroys all the balance in the bow. The little finger as seen in this picture should be freed from such stiffness as early as possible. If the little finger is stiff, the tip of the bow loses its weight and the right hand becomes stiff, and we get a twisted hand and the little finger like presses lightly. So if that's the case, you should just practice without your pinky. Whichever piece you want to play. And adjustment of the drooping scroll, we've all seen this. I see it in myself all the time. The drooping scroll mainly comes from poor posture, leaning forward. If the pupil corrects his posture but still has a drooping scroll, I suggest that the pupil hold the violin in a way that the elbow of the left arm is away from the body. Also suggests that the distance of the elbow from the body should be great enough to allow a dish to be in between your body. So he's just saying basically like don't hold like this, but bring it up. And just a couple of other things. He just talks more about bowing in a straight line. This is a great book just to have and read through. I've included this in the book in years past, but I try to keep the book as small as possible, so I might have taken it out. But this is basically what we're after. Every child can be educated. He says, if a newborn baby listens daily to the same piece, he will come to recognize it and be able to distinguish it from other music. After 30 years of experience, I know that if young children listen to good music repeatedly, they will develop a keen musical sense. Musical talent is not inherited. As every child can learn to speak his native language, he can be educated in other areas if he is given the right environment. The motto of talent education is every child can be educated. And talent education was just basically his school's title. It sounds a little weird now, I think in 2017, than it did in 1970 or 1980. Let's see, he says, let's have a good time. Group classes are fun and develop ability. Children love to play music with their friends. Pupils who have the opportunity to participate in group lessons make remarkable improvement in tone quality, posture, and musicality. The presence of more advanced pupils in the group lesson helps newer pupils to learn. All talent education programs provide group lessons, thus providing a happy learning experience. I believe education must be warm and pleasant. Okay, and the last page, I sometimes have included this in the handbook. I don't even know if it's in there. There's just so many pages. Okay. And Suzuki says, this is kind of long, so maybe grab a cup of water. All human beings are born with great potentialities, and each individual has within himself the capacity for developing to a very high level. Although some individuals display a remarkable ability during their lifetime, we are not concerned here with these extraordinary cases. However, there are many others who are born with great potential who, through unfavorable conditions, fail to develop to their proper level of achievement. Education begins from the day of birth. We must recognize the amazing power of the infant who absorbs everything in his surroundings and adds to his knowledge. If attention is not given to early infancy, how can the child's innate potential be developed? We learn from nature that a plant which is damaged or stunted during the sapling stage does not have a promising future. Yet at present, we know very little about proper training for the early infancy of human beings. Therefore, we must learn more about the conditions in which early human growth takes place. Though still in an experimental stage, talent education has realized that all children in the world show their splendid capacities by speaking and understanding their mother language, thus displaying the potential of the human mind. Is it not probable that this mother language method holds the key to human development? Talent education has applied this method to the teaching of music. Children, taken without previous aptitude or intelligence tests of any kind, have almost without exception made great progress. Cultural sensitivity is not inherited, but it is developed after birth. The hereditary ability of the mind is measured by the speed with which it adapts to circumstances. It is wrong to assume that special talent for learning music, literature, or any other field is primarily inherited. This is not to say that everyone can reach the same level of achievement. However, each individual can certainly achieve the equivalent of his language proficiency in other fields. We must investigate methods through which all children can develop their various talents. We must, oh, I said that. This may be more important than the investigation of atomic power. After 12 years, talent education now demonstrates the harvest of its educational experiment in music. And after observing and hearing the performances of these children, we adults should reflect and consider whether this method is not the best way to develop all human talents. Alright, so lots of info. This is probably one of the longest videos ever, but as you can see, tonalization is not a simple thing. We can simplify it down to plucking our string and watching the string make a sound, but there's lots of exercises, lots of things involved with Suzuki's philosophy and also with our bow hand itself and our bow arm. Alright, good luck with your tonalizations, and I look forward to working with you in book 2 on them.